begin the second part of our forum. We are introducing the ladies who are running for County Clerk and Register of Deeds. I have Lisa Brown, Democrat, and Barb Pallotta, Republican. The format is the same as before. I'd like to begin with an opening statement from you.
For me?
Yes.
Okay. How long do I have for that?
You have 1 minute for opening statement.
All right, I'll talk quickly. Good evening. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and giving voters an opportunity to get to know candidates a little bit better. My name is Lisa Brown. I am the Oakland County Clerk Register of Deeds, and I'm running for re-election. A little bit about me. I'm a lifelong resident of Oakland County. I am a mother of 3, I guess I have to say men now, and a rescue dog who is that's my girl. That's where I get to buy pink things. I'm a graduate of Michigan State University and the Detroit College of Law. I'm a member of the State Bar of Michigan, the Oakland County Bar Association. What else? I was a former state representative, or I am a former state representative, an attorney, a realtor, a former realtor, which I gave up when I took this office. So there was no kind of look of impropriety and quite honestly, I wouldn't have had the time to be a realtor and do this job at the same time. So thank you, and look forward to earning your vote to continue as Oakland County Clerk, Register of Deeds.
Ms. Pallotta.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Barb Pallotta, and I'm the Republican candidate for Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds. My experience evolved over 30 years in numerous local government positions across Oakland County. In 1996, I was hired for an entry-level position in Novi's Planning Department and was soon recruited by the city clerk. I believe that was the moment that launched my career. In 2000, I was enlisted by that same clerk to join her in Troy as her deputy, where I served 10 years. When I was appointed in 2011 as Independence Township's clerk for 18 months, I was virtually unknown to the community. Despite that, I won 2 consecutive elections, first in 2012 and then re-elected in 2016. Since retiring in 2019, I've stayed active in local government by assisting other communities, and I've also worked on the county's combined absent voter counting board, served as a substitute on the board of canvassers, and also I filled a vacated position on the board of canvassers, and I had to resign because I'm running for office. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pallotta, you will have the first question. What is your background and how will it help you serve the community? I think you've already given some of your background. That's the question.
Oh, I first? Yep. I thought B went before T. Okay, so my background is hands-on. I think both Lisa Brown and I took a different path to get here tonight. My first position in the city of Novi, I was later recruited by the clerk I worked for to go to Troy. Every position I've had in Oakland County, I was recruited for because of my reputation. So basically, my experience evolved over 30 years, and that's what makes me qualified to be your next Oakland County clerk. Local clerk they are in the front lines, and people come into your office, and you do a multitude of things. Township clerks are also the chief financial officer, so that's where I got my experience about budgets. And I am a people person. I'm not afraid of change. I'm not afraid to develop policies. I'm not afraid to move people around in the right positions, but I also am a uniter. On election night, every single department helped us on election night, and it's because I was able to recruit them in and get them part of what is the most important thing that a clerk does.
Ms. Brown.
Thank you. Well, I think first people need to know exactly what this position is and what you're in charge of. Most people just think of the County Clerk Register of Deeds as being in charge of elections, and it is so much more than that. Basically, broadly speaking, the County Clerk Register of Deeds is the keeper of the record, and that is circuit court records, vital records, obviously running elections as well as property records. So my background of being an attorney, I was already familiar with obviously the court runnings, being a realtor, familiar with the documents that are recorded in the Register of Deeds office. And when I served in the legislature, both of my terms, I was on the elections committee there. So I helped with legislation and had a constant conversation with my local clerks who represented the area or worked for the area that I represented to make sure that I was voting in a way that was supportive of our local clerks. So obviously I have now had almost 12 years of experience in this job as well. So I kind of know it inside and out.
Ms. Brown, what role do you believe the county clerk should take in assisting local clerks in the coming November election?
Well, I'll tell you, we have really been a leader across the state in how we have collaborated with our local clerks. In 2020, there was a new law signed by the governor that allows local clerks to contract with the county clerk if the county clerk offered in tabulation of absentee ballots. Offered that to our local clerks, and about 20 of our local clerks have said, yes, we'd like to contract with you. So we've been doing that since 2020. Not 20 clerks when we first started. I think it was 13, and more just kept saying, we want to contract with you. And then when Proposal 22-2 was on the ballot, and the talk of early voting, it was an opportunity that local clerks could partner with the county clerk if the county clerk offered. I did offer, and almost all of our communities have said, yes, Lisa, we want to partner with you. So we are running early voting for 45 of our communities, which is almost the whole county, and we run the largest AV counting board and the largest early voting program in the state.
Thank you. Ms. Pallotta, same question.
Well, my feeling about the relationship with between the county clerk and the local clerk is that it's got to be the strongest bond there is in county government because of the many things that elections is one, and as Clerk Brown said, Register of Deeds is also part of a local government, so you work with the Register of Deeds office also. But having said that, one of the things that the locals are facing is not being able to afford to run their own elections. The expense with the equipment has doubled since more than that, since I started in 1996. But this most recent equipment is probably midway through its life expectancy, so we can expect them to have to buy new equipment also. There's not many funds available for that. And they have to go to their boards and ask for more money. And it's gotten from being $10,000 to $100,000 in what they're asking for to help subsidize elections. So that's the main reason why they're with the county.
Ms. Brown?
I already answered that. Yeah.
No, you don't. Ms. Pallotta, I think it's the next question.
Okay.
How would you increase young voter participation in the election?
I love that question. When I was clerk in Independence Township, I tried to get into the local high school to partner with them to basically bring in the equipment and teach them about how to vote, how to operate the machine, proper way to mark their ballots. And I was never able to get in. I did get into a special ed class, and it was the best experience I have. So on my to-do list, when I become county clerk, hopefully, that is on my to-do list, is to partner with the schools and educate not only the ins and outs of how to mark a ballot, but also know the responsibility of it.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Thank you. So I do engage our youth by having mock elections for a lot of our youth groups. I think that when they're younger and they're exposed to it, they won't have those fears when they turn 18. They'll know what to expect when they go to cast a ballot. So we have a mock ballot that we use for student groups. And I run an election for the youth and government group that comes to the courthouse. I reached out to Judge Warren, who does a Constitution Day and has groups of students come. And I said, hey, you're talking about the Constitution. How about having a mock election? And so all those students also have that opportunity. I've gone into special ed classrooms as well. And one of our local high schools just reached out and said, hey, can we have a mock election at Grove? So we're going to be doing that as well. So going into the schools and engaging with our youth before they're 18 so they know what to expect when they turn 18. Thank you.
Ms. Brown, considering the many efforts to suppress the vote, what safeguards do you believe need to be implemented?
That's kind of a funny question. Well, quite frankly, I'm concerned about some clerk candidates around the country who are election deniers. So making sure that we have clerks who are dedicated to upholding the Constitution and ensuring that every eligible voter has access to the ballot. Today, as a matter of fact, I went over to the Oakland County Jail and registered eligible voters there to vote and gave them applications for absentee ballots, because as long as they are awaiting sentencing, they still have the right to vote. So I do voter registrations all around the county and do everything I can to ensure that every eligible voter has access to the ballot. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta.
I support everything that Clerk Brown just said. What I believe in mostly is enforcing the law to the letter, that when something comes before you, which I've been on election day at different precincts and have been able to be right there when something happens. There was this one instance when a voter said insisted she didn't vote absentee, but it showed that on the QBF. She followed me to my office, and I actually showed her ballot, which was still in the envelope. It hadn't been processed yet in her application, and they forget. So you have to make some, you have to figure that some of it is just human error. You know, people that call it voter fraud, I'm against that word. I think there's irregularities, but a lot of it is just, we need more voter education so we can avoid those kinds of things happening in the future. So that's my answer.
Ms. Pallotta, next question. Do you support proposal 22-2?
I don't have to support everything in it to abide by it. I believe in following the law. There are things in it that I personally don't like, but that doesn't ever interfere with me enforcing what is in that law. So everybody's entitled to an opinion, but it can't enter into the workplace when you're clerk.
Ms. Brown.
Yes, I supported 22-2. I voted for it. I encouraged others to vote for it. I knew that it would be, honestly, more work for me, my staff, and other clerks. But as a clerk, it's not about the job that you have to do. It's about the voters and ensuring that they have access to the ballot. And again, that's why I offered to run early voting or partner with our local clerks for early voting to alleviate some of the stress that they have, because they really have had a lot of extra job duties added to their plate from 18-3 and 22-2. And, you know, everybody's human. They can only do so much. And I always say democracy is a team sport. And I exercise that in the way that I do this job and by partnering and supporting our local clerks. But absolutely support 22-2, which, by the way, is in the Constitution. So as an elected official, you do take an oath to uphold the Constitution. And so I hope that everybody who is a clerk would be very comfortable doing that and believe in what they're saying. Thank you.
Next question. With so much misinformation being spread about elections, is the clerk obligated to speak out against mistruths? In other words, lies?
Is that for me first? Okay. I think it's important to put out the correct information. We are living in a very hostile environment, election administrators. I've received a threat. My elections director has received a threat. We're not the only ones. And it can get a little scary out there to be putting yourself out there. But it's really important to make sure that people have access to the right information. And I actually talked to my colleague from Livingston County, who's a Republican, and I said, hey, what do you think about doing little videos together where we can talk about elections and give people the facts in a bipartisan manner? And she said, I'm totally in. So be on the lookout on social media for our little videos. But I think it is important to, it's really hard to keep up with it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but all I can do is keep telling people how our elections work, how they're secure, accurate, and fair, encourage people who have doubts to come to our public accuracy test or work an election. Our elections are transparent and everybody's welcome to be a part of it and be a part of the democracy team. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta.
I always wish I had a fact checker on my shoulder and that was whisper in my ear, because the misinformation is out of control and it's causing doubt and lack of trust in our elections, and that's awful. Having said that, I think voter education is so important. It still surprises me. When I was on the combined AV counting board, Sheriff Bouchard was on the ballot, and it surprised me how many people in that August election voted straight ticket and then cross-party voted because they wanted to vote for Sheriff Bouchard. And all I could think of was that could have been fixed if the voters knew they weren't supposed to do that. So I know that the county puts out a lot, and so do the local clerks, but I don't know how to educate voters so that they don't make that simple mistake, because every single vote was lost on the partisan section because of that. So I'm for voter education, and I'll do my best to get the word out there.
Thank you. Please discuss your views on Michigan's new voting rights. Ms. Pallotta.
What is that?
Can you discuss your views on Michigan's new voting rights?
The Voting Rights Act?
The voting
Are you
rights.
talking about that pending legislation?
This is a question submitted from the audience.
Well,
It
I
says,
do know,
please discuss your views on Michigan's new voting rights.
from what I understand, I'm not sure, but it was passed. There's a new Senate bill 401, and it has 402, 403, and 404 tie bar to it, and it did pass the Senate. So it's pending right now, and I don't really have much to say about it. I did look at it and I did analyze it. There's some things in it that concern me. Some of it is already in the Constitution, a lot of it. So I'm not sure the purpose of this, other than, as Clerk Brown mentioned, that it'll add more duties at a local level, some of the things that are in the tie bar part of it. So I have concerns about it because the burden will be great, that's for sure.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Thank you. So I've actually been on the work group for this package of bills. I spent countless hours working with the senators who introduced it and questioned initially, why are you doing this? But I understand at the federal level, our Voting Rights Act is being gutted, and there's fear that it's not going to get any better. However, this legislation went beyond what the Federal Voting Rights Act provides for and protects. So I worked with the legislators, worked with the senators to, for one thing, take away, they wanted to fine local clerks if they forgot to post something. That's unacceptable. Everybody's human, and to make a mistake, no other elected officials getting fined for making mistakes. So I had that taken out of the legislation, working on the language requirements and that, and matching that more to the federal act, as well as ensuring that it's not a huge burden again on our local clerks and us being able to print ballots in a bunch of different languages, but making sure that everybody still has access to the ballot as they should. Thank you.
Next question. What is your agenda for your first 100 days in office?
Oh, do I start that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can say we're currently working on an RFP for a new database, a new vendor, a new program for our Register of Deeds office. So it will be getting that contract done and working on the implementation for that program. I'm working on new programs right now that I'm not sure when they'll be unveiled, when the packages will all be ready, but hopefully in the next month I'm actually going to have a new program, first of its kind in the country, and then there's another one that I'm working on if we get grant funding for it. So I'm not done. I still have things that I want to do, new innovations to the office. So I look forward to doing that my next term. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta?
In terms of elections, all I can say is it's a very smooth department, and the staff is awesome. They do an excellent job in reaching out to the clerks and running the election side of it. So I give kudos to them. On the Register of Deeds, that's something I would have to look into. But one thing I know for sure I'm going to look at is there's many types of services that are online right now, and I want to look at the fees associated with them to see if the services merit the fee assigned to it. Anything that's electronic, I personally believe that, especially circuit court records, that right now I believe it's $1 a page, and I think it should be free. It's electronic, and people go to the website and can print it from their computer. So I think that those types of things should be free. So I'm going to assess the merit of those fees basically for that.
Thank you. Next question, Ms. Pallotta. Do you envision using any more technology to improve services in the clerk's office?
Could you repeat it?
Do you envision using more technology to improve services in the clerk's office?
Well, I don't know if by technology that would help this, but I would like that nothing goes into voicemail. So I don't know how to correct that, but I think people should answer their phones. That's one thing I'd like to do. In terms of technology, I think they are pretty up to date with that. I have spoken with someone in the IT department at the county, and she had some ideas for the clerk's office, but I'm not free to mention that tonight. So there are some things that can be improved, and that's part of what I do anyways. If I think that it's reasonable and not costly, I definitely will implement new technology.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Yeah, I guess I first would like to clarify that the county clerk does not get to set any fees. They're either statutory or set by the Board of Commissioners. So we don't really have the authority to change fees, especially that are in statute. But as far as technology, again, looking to implement a new program in the Register of Deeds, a new platform for that. Looking at a new case management system, that's going to take years, but we're working on that. So the program that we're currently running on was built by Oakland County in the 1970s, and it's end of life. So we've been working on that for a while, asking the executive for money, and now we're working with the State Court Administrative Office. When I say we, the county clerk's office, as well as our courts, to be able to implement a new case management system, but that'll be in a few years as well. Thank you.
Next question. How would you go about recruiting and training election workers?
Is that for me?
Is that for, yes.
Okay. So the law provides that communities of over 10,000, those local clerks have the option to train their own workers. Remember that local clerks are in charge of the precinct. They basically, they have a different role in elections for the most part than the county clerk. But we already do train. We have a great program, and we train our workers for our early voting site as well as for our combined absentee voting counting board. And people like it so much that people keep saying, I want to work for you. I want to work for you. And we really don't have openings because everybody who works for us wants to continue working for us. And I will say that I've talked to the people who work for us on election day, who work in our counting board, and they, some of them used to work for their local community, and they prefer working for us. They really like our process and ensuring the privacy of the vote and our efficiency and everything like that. So, yeah, thank you.
Ms. Pallotta, how would you go about recruiting and training election workers?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you said recruiting too. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess just the good old-fashioned way, just putting out a help wanted sign for one thing. I do know that we, as a clerk, we have to have a balance in each precinct, and we have to have equal number of the two main parties. And at any given time, it's lopsided. It keeps changing. So that's one of the problems that we have. We have to encourage people to come and work. Another problem is it's a long day. So people at a local level, because that's where the biggest problem is. It's great at the county because it's an AV counting board. Everybody wants to be on that, not at the precincts. But it's a long day and it's hard to get people to come in. We have recruited students to work at the local level, and they are the best at operating the e-poll book. Having said that, it will always be the same problem. When I worked in 1996 in Troy, it's just hard to get people to work. So my recommendation, everybody in this room, if you haven't worked an election, do it, because it'll open up your eyes to what the process really is. It educates you. That's the best way to get educated.
Thank you. Next question. What can you do to ensure safe elections as county clerk? Ms. Pallotta?
I would say what I said earlier, just follow the law. If you see something, say something. That's what I always said to my inspectors. And I would give them my personal phone number while I'm out on the field. And on election day, don't be afraid to say something. So in terms of safety, physical safety, and I know that the county clerk's implementing this right now, is they have a process that they are rolling out to the local clerks so that everybody has basically an escape plan or an awareness plan to protect them while they're working on election day. But you have to admit, someone earlier said how volatile everything is nowadays. You can't plan for the unexpected. And what you think is normal that you could have expected, the next thing you know, something weirder happens. So you just have to be careful and have the support of your police, your law enforcement. We had a law enforcement officer at every precinct where I was clerk. So, but the county does the same thing. They're very aware of it.
Ms. Brown, what can you do to ensure safe elections?
You know, and I think safe elections means different things to different people. But because of the threats made to election workers, the intimidation of voters, the threats to election offices, envelopes filled with white substances. I had the Waterford Fire Department come out and get the lay of the land of where we tabulate the absentee ballots for 20 of our communities. So just in case there was an envelope with a substance in it, they would know where we are, where the HVAC turnoff is, and everything like that. 2 weeks ago, I met with the police chiefs of Oakland County. I like to remind them of what election day crimes are and remind them that we don't just have one election day anymore because of 9 days early voting. So we have 10 days really of 10 election days. And I've been sharing information with our local clerks about safe opening of mail, what to do, all those sorts of things. So sharing all the information that I have as well.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, next question. With so much of the clerk's office subject to legislative mandates, what is your experience working with Lansing?
Well, I served 2 terms in the state house, so I have experience not just working with legislators, because I always worked across the aisle as well, but understanding and reading legislation and writing legislation. And I've really been an active part in a lot of legislation that has passed since I've been in this office. Protections for the Register of Deeds office, elections, basically every aspect of the office I've worked on. I've worked on legislation and continue, and I have a great relationship with Jeremy Moss, who is the the chair of the Senate Elections Committee, and many other people up there that represent Oakland County and other parts of the state, so that I can call them. Kelly Breen is the chair of the Judicial Committee in the House, and talk to her about ERPOs and how we need to improve that, which are extreme risk protective orders. So I have a great relationship with our legislators and understanding how legislation happens from beginning to end. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta.
As a local clerk, it's hands-on, so I work closely with our general counsel with ordinance changes, so that was fun. I actually love doing stuff like that. Since I'm running for office, one of the senators at the state reached out to me and asked me to analyze Senate Bills 401 and the tag-on bills, or the tie-barred kill bills. But anyways, I love doing that. I love analyzing things like that. It's what I'm strong in. I like writing policies. I like writing instructions. I do a lot of visual things because I think it's easier. So for election training, I shared it with other clerks across the county. So that's my strength, is doing something like that. I love it. So
Ms. Pallotta, what are your top 3 priorities in 2025? I'm sorry,
for the clerk's office,
for the clerk's office. What would your top 3 priorities be?
well, there are three things to look at: elections, register of deeds, and just staffing. I want to make sure that the one priority is I want to make sure everybody's happy in the positions they're in. I want to make sure they're in a position that where their strengths can be best used. That's also something I enjoy doing. I'm not afraid to move people around. I also like to look at things from a higher level in terms of what's working and what's not working. Complacency, they say apathy is something that is very dangerous. I think complacency is more, because you get used to seeing things as they are and you're not willing to look ahead. I'm not like that. I've never been complacent. I look at things and I listen to staff. So even to the point where it came to a hiring of somebody came into my office and basically told me something very private, and I actually talked to the candidate and it was true. So people are comfortable with me. I have an open door policy, so it's not really 3 things, but it's what I would do.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
Okay, thank you.
What
And
are
I know
your
I know I keep doing this, but also I guess I should have said with the other one, with the previous question, as an attorney, I also, it's not just being able to read legislation and work on it, but understand what that implementation would actually mean. So, first priority is ensuring that that the office continues to be a model for the rest of the state. Very proud of the programs, the innovations, the collaborations that I've done in the last 11.5 years, and want to make sure that that continues. It's always nice when a colleague from across the state calls me and says, hey, how would you handle this? And I appreciate that they value my opinion. Second, like I said, we're going to be implementing a new program in the Register of Deeds office. So ensuring that, honestly, that the vendor sticks to the contract, because if you don't stay on top of them, they won't. And I have held them accountable and gotten some credits to bills before because of that. And it helps also being an attorney. And then also ensuring that the accessibility to our services continues. I'm proud that I continue doing my local office visits where I bring the services of my office to different communities. It's not easy to get to the courthouse. Also that I opened a satellite office and whatever else we can do online. Not everything can be online, but
May I have your attention, please?
whoops.
The library will close in 30 minutes. If you arrange for a ride home, please do so now. Thank you.
Just did my job for you. Ms. Brown, you have the next question.
Alrighty.
Do you have a position on ranked choice voting at the local levels or higher office?
Thank you for that question. I will tell you, when we were looking at getting new voting equipment, and that happened across the state at the same time, that was a state RFP. I asked the vendor that we have, do you have the capability of running ranked choice voting? Because at that point, one of our communities had already voted to do their to run their city races by ranked choice voting. They haven't been able to do that because there hasn't been legislation to enable that. There's no voting instructions, et cetera. We now have another community in Oakland County that last November actually voted to do that. So I think it's really important to listen to the voters, and the voters of those 2 communities have said this is how we want our city races, and our equipment has the capability. It's just a question of the legislature passing laws to enable that to happen. To do it on the state level, that's a little more complicated. But I definitely support our local communities being able to have their city elections that way. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta, do you have a position on ranked choice
I
voting?
do. And ditto in terms of what Clerk Brown said. And I agree that it has to go to the voters, and whatever is passed, we accept it. The main thing about the clerk's position, I feel it should be nonpartisan for what we do. And it would make things easier to do our job. So I would never take a position publicly that I don't have control over. If I was a legislator and had to vote on it, I would tell everybody how I felt about things. I think it's up to the voters to vote it in. And if they do vote it in, I will be glad to enforce that law. It's the same as roads. It's everything that we do. If it's passed by the voters, you follow the law. So that's one of the good things about being a clerk. You have law behind you to back you up. You don't have to say, well, this is how I feel about it, because no one really cares how you feel. They just want you to follow the law.
Ms. Pallotta, next question. Would you support online voting?
No, not yet. I think we're a long way from that. We need to get all our ducks in a row with what we have right now. And to add that on to it right now, we were talking about misinformation before, and all of the negativity about that is something that shouldn't happen at this point in time, if it ever should. There's too many things going on. You can sit in front of your computer at home, and next thing you know, you get spam. We're not there yet, but it sure would be convenient. And I think most of the laws that are being passed right now in terms of elections is to encourage voters to vote, not to make voting easier, but to make it so that it's convenient. But there is a fine line between that and your election integrity, and you have to be very careful not to cross that line.
Ms. Brown?
Yes. Well, I can tell you there are states that in their voting equipment, they use DREs, which is basically voting on a tablet. So I don't know if you would call it online, but without having paper. And with everything that's been going on around the country, they're now buying new equipment and going back to paper. I think it's really important at this point, where we have people who don't trust our elections, to have a paper trail. Now with early voting, no reason absentee, it is easy to vote for every eligible, it should be, for every eligible citizen. We do audits after every election, and one of the things that we do is a hand count of the precincts that we're auditing of a race on the ballot. I think it gives voters that confidence that our equipment is accurate, and any candidate who wants a recount or a ballot proposal, we can have those paper ballots, and they are looking at it themselves, that they can see how people actually cast their vote. And I think it gives more confidence. Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
What is your opinion on our primary election dates? Should they be moved forward or should they be moved back?
Okay, I'm not sure which way what that means, move forward or back, but I will tell you, for a long time, I was not comfortable with the thought of moving our primary date because of voter education. And it concerned me that everybody in Michigan knows, or I hope everybody in Michigan knows, that our primary is in August. But now with all of the changes that we have had, it is making it really, really difficult for us to switch from from finishing the primary, especially if we have a recount, which that's when we usually have a recount, to then getting ready for November, getting early voting ready, all these different changes that have happened in our election process. I now do support moving it earlier, probably June. And there would just have to be a huge education campaign so that voters know, because it's so important that people know when our elections are. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta?
My
What is your
opinion
opinion
is
of the
I would
primary?
like a primary where we get a greater voter turnout. That's our biggest problem, is turnout. What most people don't realize, elections aren't a one-day event. The prep, as Clerk Brown mentioned, is a lot. Even if there's one thing on the ballot or it's a two-sided ballot, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into it. So it can be disheartening when you don't get a big voter turnout, even no matter how you advertise it. So whatever works for in a state where they have a large voter turnout, that is what I would like. That's what I would like the primary. In terms of the presidential primary, there's lots of confusion with the ballot in terms of they have to take a Republican ballot or a Democrat ballot. There's a lot of people who don't like that. And I want the voters to vote. That's what it boils down to me, and be excited about it and not mistrust it.
Next question. Do you support making elections even earlier than 9 days, such as having early voting be more than 9 days prior to election day? Ms. Pallotta?
No, I think that candidates need to have the opportunity to garner votes from the public, and I think they owe it to the public to know who they are. If you move it up too soon or make it longer, there's really no benefit. Some people are adamant about who they're going to vote for, but we want those voters who are on the fence to know as much as they can before they vote their ballot. So I would object to more early voting days.
Ms. Brown?
Yes. Well, so for the 45 communities that we're running early voting for, we are sticking to the 9 days. Before we implemented early voting, our elections director and I went to go observe early voting in another state because I said, if I'm doing this, I need to know what it looks like. And because obviously we'd never done it in Michigan before. And that state does it for 45 days. And yeah, that's a really long time. And it's not the best use of taxpayer dollars to be hiring workers for 45 days when there are days when you're not going to have any voters come in. And that's what we learned from that state is the first couple days they have, a couple people come in and then it completely drops off. And then as they get closer to the election, it picks up again. And, communities who are running early voting themselves, they have the opportunity and the option to run it for more than 9 days. But I think especially with it being so new, we're trying to get people to even understand what early voting is. It's different than absentee voting, people. So it's great. Try it out. But I'm happy with the 9 days for right now. Thank you.
This is the last question, and it does not concern elections. As clerk, how would you ensure that the office is providing good customer service? Ms. Brown?
Nothing makes me happier than when I meet somebody and they tell me, oh, I had to get a birth certificate from your office and your staff was so nice. Or, oh, I filed for office and they were so helpful. Or I needed a copy of my deed and they went out of their way to help me with this and help me with that. And I really install that we are here to serve the public. When I started, morale was really low in the office. I just don't think that they felt valued and they didn't feel like a team. And I've really worked on that to know that my staff is incredible. I mean, I can't say enough good things about them. They are experts in all of their divisions, and we're lucky to have them in Oakland County. We are, like I said, we are public. We are here to serve the public. Again, that's why accessibility is so important to me. Doing the local office visits, bringing the services to the customer. People shouldn't have to come to me. We're here to serve you as government. Thank you.
Ms. Pallotta, as clerk, how would you ensure that the office is providing good customer service?
I would make sure to provide for all employees that they get the training they need to do their jobs. I also believe that I always led by example. I try to learn as much as everybody's job as I can so that I can assess them in terms of where they're at and whether they're actually enjoying coming to work every day. That's important too. But I'm a people person. The joke when I was in Independence Township, there was a resident who said to me, "This is how I picture you every day. You have a line out your door and one by one people come in." And I said, that's how it is. That's why I worked late and came in early, is so that I never talked to anyone at the counter. I invited them to my office and had them sit down with me. And the employees saw that. So when you lead by example, that's how they treat people at the counter. I never got one complaint about any of the employees I had. So that's a good feeling. And I do love talking to the public. You run into old schoolmates and people who know people. So it's fun.
Thank you, ladies. Our time for questions is over. You may now give a 1-minute closing statement. Ms. Brown.
Oh, I'm first again?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I went first for the opening.
No,
You
I
did?
did. Yep.
That
It's
was
your turn.
40 seconds.
I think it's your turn.
Okay, I'll do it.
There's polite women going, no, you go. No, you're first. No, you're first.
Well, first I want to say that Lisa and I are not enemies. We're just competitors. I really respect her. But to be clear, I'm not a politician and never had any political aspirations. But what I know for sure, other than being a mom, Working in the public sector could not have been more rewarding for me personally and professionally. I didn't choose it, it chose me. I only applied in my hometown of Novi because the city offices were adjacent to Novi High School. I'm humbled to tell you that subsequent to that first position, I was personally recruited for all the positions I had in Oakland County. I believe my reputation is my strength and is why I have the privilege of being here tonight. In 2012, when running for the first time as township clerk, I asked voters to entrust me with their vote, and now I'm asking you to entrust me with your vote to give me the opportunity to serve you as Oakland County's clerk. And lastly, thank you, League of Voters, for hosting us tonight, and a big thank you to all of you who attended tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
Where do I begin? I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that I was actually painfully shy as a child. I could not order for myself in a restaurant. I had to like whisper it to my mom or my dad. And so I never pictured myself in public office. To talk to strangers, it just was not on my path. And I was recruited actually to run for state representative, and knocking doors and talking to people and finding out what issues were important to them. It just hit me, and I got bit by the bug for public service, not for politics, but for public service. And I welcomed the opportunity, and I hope that I get the opportunity to continue working for the people of Oakland County as a lifelong resident of this county. I can't tell you how honored I have been to be in this position for the last 11 and a half years. And I would greatly appreciate your vote so that I continue to have this office be a model for the rest of the state and honestly across the country. Thank you.
These are role models.
The League of Women Voters
It's
would
'cause we
like to
don't
thank
hate
the
each other.
audience, the candidates, and Bloomfield Community TV for making this forum possible. For further nonpartisan information on these candidates, please visit vote411.org for our voter guide.
Yes.
Rebroadcast of this forum will be on the League of Women Voters website and YouTube. The League of Women Voters is funded by contributions from concerned businesses and citizens. Our membership is open to women and men over the age of 16. This presentation is copyrighted 2024 by the League of Women Voters and can only be shown in its entirety. All rights are reserved. Last of all, ladies and gentlemen, please remember to vote by November 5th. Democracy is not a spectator sport.
November 5th.